Hello and welcome to our special program, What's the Talk, where we invite guests coming from across the world to share their thoughts on a range of topics, from environmental protection to poverty alleviation. And most of the guests are of the younger generation. Some of them are scholars in the field or young entrepreneurs or internet influencers. And we also invite you to join our discussion by leaving comments on our social media platforms. That would include CGTN's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Chinese Weibo, and also Bilibili and WeChat platforms. Now, without further ado, let's dive into our topics today. And we're talking about environmental protection and climate change. Human activities have affected Mother Nature deeply due to the pressures of overconsumption, population growth, and also technology. The biophysical environment is being degraded and sometimes permanently. We've all heard about the February the 3rd train derailment in Ohio. While the impact of some crises is often immediate, others can take months or even years to become fully known. An independent environmental protection agency found that 9 air pollutants in the areas are at levels that, if they continue, could raise long-term health concerns in and around that town and affect the health of residents there. Other extreme climate change cases include the extreme weather in Europe and also the 2022 Pakistan floods. Besides climate change, other harms we did to Mother Nature include deforestation, the degradation of land, loss of biodiversity, and also pollution, just to name a few. Governments across the world are now trying to conserve natural resources and the existing natural environment, and where possible, to repair damage and reverse the trend. And for our discussion today, we have 4 guests. Let me introduce them one by one. Let's start from the ladies first. Xenia, founder of UseDem, a textile recycling brand. After years of being a denim designer, she launched the brand and hoped to upcycle the old jeans. She's a Russian native and is now based in Shanghai, China. Now, Xenia, I saw this in your WeChat description. I think it's super cool. And you said the earth is my boss. And you also said multiple times that you have this mission of building a cleaner fashion industry. So tell us, what drives you into this field?
Well, I moved to China to work closely with the factories in 2011. And as a young designer, I was like absolutely shocked. And my feeling was absolutely destroyed about being designer and work for the fashion in the absolutely conventional way. So I started to asking myself, well, how I can change my path. And right now I'm calling myself proudly upcyclist, ecopreneur, and sustainable denim expert. And through my company, UseDem, I do upcycle textile waste. And with this kind of companies like big textile companies like Levi's, Adidas, and T-Rex, we bring the bigger impact through the collaboration. And as well, we are doing a big job on education for Chinese customers through our workshops and education program like lectures and talks.
So by workshops, do you host events that invite guests coming in and have them design their own, making their old jeans into new ones? Do you do that?
Yeah. It's open, publicly open, and of course, everyone can join us, and we can teach people how to transform them clothes into something useful and more desirable to wear in nowadays if it's already lost trendy look.
So put those, not trendy pants into, very cool ones. All right. Next, let's introduce Andrea. She's in Romania studying at Tsinghua University. She's also the Global Young Ambassador for GALC, the Global Alliance of Universities on Climate. Andrea, you're studying economics at Tsinghua University. So what drives you and what makes you interested in climate change?
So hello, everyone. Nice to be to be here tonight. So basically, I was always drawn to nature. Growing up in Italy and Romania, I was always surrounded by nature, so I have a really big respect for nature. And for me, I've had many instances in life in which I've seen how we as a society are damaging Earth, and most times it's useless damage that we could fix quite easily. So I was really drawn, after studying finance, I was really drawn into understanding how, from a finance perspective, I can support climate action. So this is why I joined the Global Alliance of Universities on Climate as a youth ambassador. And during the program, we learned a lot also about how finance intersects in the climate action and how we can actually support climate action itself. One of the main things, it would be that there are a lot of socioeconomical intersections into climate change, and at the same time, we are also required to know about financing issues in this new industry because it's still considered as a new industry. So investments and financing from public institutions still take a little bit of time to come through. And also climate carbon tracking also relies a lot on financing. So yes, that's one of the reasons why I joined the program.
Very cool. Let's then introduce our next guest. She's Bensu. She's a Toronto Metropolitan University alum, and she's also an advocate for plant-based and minimalist life. So Bensu, tell us, what does minimalism mean?
I think in terms of like in general, it's pretty much about cherishing like very few things and not focusing on like, oh, all these things that you need and focusing on all this demand that's being pushed on you and really getting more value out of the things that you already own. And then in terms of a sustainability perspective, it's kind of the same thing, just trying not to buy things that you really don't need and cherishing what you have and making use out of what you have. So that's kind of my perspective on it.
I saw you, one of the videos, you said you're a vegan queen. So are you a vegan yourself?
Yes, I am. I have been for around 6 years now.
Is it hard to be a vegan?
I think it definitely depends on the context. Like it depends on your personal life. And I know we spoke earlier about like, it depends where you're located and all that kind of stuff. For me personally, it's pretty feasible here in Canada. It's only getting easier year over year. There's more options wherever I go. But yeah, I don't find being vegan particularly hard for my situation currently.
But do you cook most of your food yourself?
Yeah, that's what makes it a lot easier. It actually is like I learned how to cook because I went vegan. So before I only knew literally how to make like pasta, and then I was like, oh, okay, like I can't eat pasta every day. So I started to learn how to cook like tofu and like a whole variety of foods now. So it made me a better cook actually.
All right, and finally, our gentleman right here, his name is Jiacheng, also a PhD candidate in petroleum engineering, and is also a visiting scholar in the United Arab Emirates University. Now, Jiacheng, tell us a bit more about your track, because I don't know a lot of people studying this, but what drives into this major?
When I first chose to work in the oil industry, I just saw that everyone need oil. The car need oil, the petrochemical plants need oil, and it should be a good job. In the beginning, I chose this colleague, and then I find the combustion of petroleum really increased the pollution in the earth. So my topic is actually to drill a well. It's easy to be understood. Drill a well very deeply. Deep to thousands, maybe 5,000, 6,000 meters underground to extract oil. And then I understand to extract a lot of oil really can increase the carbon dioxide emissions. I get a bit frustrated. But as I learn more about this industry, luckily I found a technology. The name is abbreviated as CCUS. It is carbon capture utilization technology. Using this technology, I think I can reduce the carbon emissions from petroleum engineering, and I really love it. and it became my research topic in my PhD study.
So you're just researching about all those fancy technologies to help the Earth with, less carbon dioxide and then all those dangerous, elements. All right, that's our guess. Let's dive right into our real discussion right now. We actually did a poll asking what our viewers wants to know more about on the topic, and we got quite a few questions. And our producers selected some of them that most people are curious about, and we want you guys, all 4 of you, to give your personal opinions, maybe some of your personal experiences on the question. So please feel free to have a little discussion going on. If you don't agree with someone, what someone has said, just say, I don't agree with you. Don't be shy. All right. First one question is, a lot of people want to know this. Why does environmental protection matter? This person wrote, how do ordinary people deal with pollution in the environment? Complain to the government for a while and then forget about it. Why should I care about it? Okay, let's start from, I guess, Andrea.
Yes, a wonderful question. I believe that growing up, I didn't only see positive role models, I also saw negative role models, and a lot of people asking the same question: why should we care about climate change? One of the things that adults would tell me was, oh, we've heard about climate change for 20 years already. It doesn't matter, nothing is happening. But everything is happening right now. We are seeing it from the North Pole having huge changes in its temperature. We are having really damaging heat waves in Europe and also in China. We are facing a lot of issues everywhere in the world, so everyone should be aware of it. And furthermore, there's also a lot of scientific evidence that is that climate change is happening and is affecting daily lives. And unfortunately, this will not affect first world countries at first. It will affect underdeveloped country or developing countries that cannot face this challenge economically. So for example, we've had a lot of droughts this summer in many countries that cannot face that economically. So we need to start acting now before every country in the world will face even more damage. So the first way is to start from the top and to help these developed countries reduce their impact in pollution and climate change, because they are the main promoters of unsustainable lifestyles. So yes, I believe that we are seeing so many things, we are witnessing so many things that is everyone should care.
We talked earlier, and you said the first time when you came to China, a lot of things or did differently than what you have experienced in Italy. Can you sort of talk more on that?
Yes, absolutely. So basically, when I was around 12 or 13, my small village that I was living in Italy, they started implementing waste management rules. So plastic goes in one place, paper goes in one place, and then there will be also organic food and residuals to throw in different places. And this is really effective in Italy, and there has been a really great improvement in waste management. And you cannot see effectively in many places that there used to be waste on the streets. And at the same time, in terms of waste management, there's a lot of compost that is being reused, since gathering organic waste is so much easier and more effective. So that can be reused in agriculture and promote this cycle of reuse in terms of waste. But at the same time, they also implement really good policies in doing so, and allowing people to understand why it's important and how to even involve those who don't care about climate or about the nature. So they would have random checks, and if you're not respecting this waste management system, they would tax you. But I was really shocked when I arrived to China, because I was expecting a really big city like Beijing to have standards for each building, for example. However, I know since I've got here first in 2018, there's been many changes and many policies being implemented. And for example, in the 5-year plan and in local areas in Beijing, they are implementing more policies around this. So there is definitely more change. There should be also more awareness around the topic, because many people think, oh, waste is not something not attractive as a topic to talk about, but it's actually very important and should be talked more about and create awareness around it.
Thank you, Andrea. Now let's go to Bensu. Why do you think environmental protection is very important for everyone?
I feel like I have a pretty simple answer to it, but it literally, there's no way that you can escape it. Like, we all live on this planet. It literally affects everyone. We don't have anywhere else to go. We have one Earth, so I feel like we just need to treat it with respect and, like, save it and preserve it for the generations to come.
But there are people saying this is a hoax, like environmental protection is a hoax.
Right. I mean, obviously, I feel like you can have that perspective, but obviously there's science, there's evidence showing that it's not. Obviously, some things are being covered up and some things are being shown to light. And I feel like you just have to take the initiative to be able to kind of go out there and see for yourself, do the research yourself. And I mean, regardless of even if you think if climate change is a hoax, I still think that there's nothing wrong with, implementing more sustainable measures in your life, because it's not really going to destroy your life by trying to be a little bit more minimalistic, or trying to eat a little bit more plant-based, or just doing some research about climate change, or trying to introduce a more circular method of fashion in your life. I think none of those things really are at harm to you. There's very little risk in trying to be more sustainable, so I think it's worth the shot.
I have things to say.
Let's go to Xenia right now. Why do you think environmental protection is important?
Well, I think it's a question itself very egoistic if the person is asking this kind of question. And let's put it in perspective, or for every single person soon what's going to happen. And it's not my investigation, but the scientists. So this is two things that going to happen soon is a climate migration. So that people have to migrate from the places they used to live into a more acceptable places for living, right? It can be water, when you don't have water resources, when the weather is too warm, and when there's no resources like food, easy to access to. And the second one is very important one, is a climate health issue. So because of the weather changes, there will be a kind of different environment in terms of blooming. So those people who are, if I can describe it correctly, that the plants that never bloom in the certain space area will start to grow in the different seasons and bloom in a different time. And people who has an allergy or different sensitive, who are more sensitive to the blooming, they have to also migrate, or they will have a health issue. So it's a kind of it will touch, I think, very soon everyone. And if we still don't believe that there's not enough water resources, I think in terms of how fast it can happen to most of the places in the world, that there will be a kind of a lack of the water resources. So we can just think about it very simply, how much water we drink every day. And if you will try to do fasting and don't eat and don't drink for one day, you will realize how much it's painful. And I think it will touch a lot of areas in the world soon.
Yeah, a lot of the natural resources are not unlimited, right? So we need to really start to preserve them from right now, and to preserve it for our future generations as well. Xenia, I want to ask this. Do you talk about environmental protection with your friends?
Absolutely. And it's not only my friends, but all my social network. And this is definitely a topic I would like to talk, but never push, because you cannot really make people believe in something when you actually kind of like insist. And for example, I'm personally planting the seeds of the sustainable development through my work, because we do a lot of workshops, and who are participating in our workshops and make something by their hands, they will never forget. It's kind of like a muscle memory, the joy of when you take something old and you transform it into something useful and new. And it's through the muscle memory and this kind of like spark of the joy inside of person. Next step, like this is what normally my customers and my friends and people who join our workshops tell me, that I was so happy to do that. Then I start to find and look for the things that I can improve and change in my life to a more respectful way to myself, first of all, and to the nature and my social circle, like my people.
I like that, really hosting some of the very interesting events and feed people the idea, but not pushing them to really get the sense. Now let's go to Jiacheng. Why do you think everyone should care about environmental protection?
Yeah, I think the ladies have made the world very clearly. Let's say climate change may seem far away, but it's actually all around us. Let's just take the global warming, for example. With the increase of temperature this year, as has repeatedly been the case in recent years, many countries have experienced an unprecedented number of climate events, with extreme weather leading to flooding, droughts, and wildfires, and causing food shortages and health problems. These things cause major damage to ecosystems and human habitats, even leading to internal displacement and migration around the world. For example, the ocean temperatures are getting warmer, right? Because of the global warming, resulting in more severe tropic storms. In other words, global warming has the ability to turn a Category 3 storm into a more dangerous Category 4 storm. I truly believe no one wants their house be destroyed by the storm. Okay, similarly, global warming can increase the frequency and the intensity of various climate hazards. So furthermore, environment hazards further lead to uneven development within and between the regions and the countries, and thus intensify the problem of poverty and the public health issue. I think these things related to the climate change or related to everybody. So I think it is a problem we shouldn't ignore, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just climate change problems that we are seeing. We're also seeing other problems, including, as I said, deforestation, the degradation of land, loss of biodiversity, and a series of other effects that could harm the mother nature. All right, welcome back. And next question, what can ordinary people, not really environmental protection experts or activists like you guys, do to help with environmental protection? Now let's start this question from Jiacheng.
Yeah, the first suggestion I think, is to reduce energy consumption. The less energy you use, the less carbon dioxide will be released into the atmosphere. You can reduce your energy consumptions by turning off the lights and the electronics when not in use, or using energy efficient appliances and reducing using of the heating and air conditioning. But honestly, I think completely no carbon dioxide production is impossible, because we have to, for example, we have to consume some petroleum, consume some gas now. So one of another suggestion is to use electrical car. Someone may argue that the electrical car also consume electricity, and the electricity is come from power plants, right? However, as I say, CCUS need to inject. There is a way to inject carbon dioxide from the ground to the subsurface. Thus, we can store a lot of carbon dioxide underground. But collect carbon dioxide really costs a lot of money. It is impossible to collect every fossil consuming car, but it could be very easily to collect the carbon dioxide generated in a power plant. So it involves a path to CCUS that is centralized carbon dioxide generation rather than decentralized. Then similarly, we can use more induction stoves instead of gas stoves, and use electric boilers instead of natural gas boiler.
Mm-hmm.
Another suggestion is that if you have to use fossil fuels, you can try to use natural gas, because combustion of natural gas emits about half as much carbon dioxide as coal, and 30% less than oil, as well as far fewer pollutants.
Mm-hmm. Talking about natural gas, I think China is actually right now pushing the use of natural gas for every home. What's the situation look like in the UAE? Do they still use fossil fuels, or is it natural gas right now there?
Natural gas is actually very popular here.
Mm-hmm. So natural gas is
Yes.
Is it more expensive than fossil fuel?
Yes, it's more expensive. When about 10 years ago, I went to oil field. They just combust all the natural gas because store natural gas is expensive.
Mm.
They just need oil and combust all the natural gas they produce. And now it's prohibited.
So that's why we need scientists or really engineers like you to, to get into research and find out ways to whether to store them or to develop new technologies to help with, the process of environmental protection. Now let's go to Xenia. Xenia, what can everyday people in their everyday life do to help with environmental protection?
I think be curious. Be curious in terms of fashion. Be curious what your clothes is made of, how it's made of, how it's made, and this simple things like to produce just one single pair of jeans, you need 11,000 liters of water. It consumes a lot of energy to wash. It's created through the process of production using a lot of chemicals. And I think by knowing these kind of facts and how it's affect the nature in humans and those who work in this industry, you kind of like will be interested into diving into the fashion industry. And then, as a result, I think we should always ask fashion brands about better product. And if you ask me how to ask, leave the messages on the social media, write the emails to the companies. And, companies are actually following their social requirement, right?
But I think then we come to problems. A lot of times when we are asking brands to use those recyclable materials, a lot of times the price goes a bit higher as well. So then will people be willing to pay, more money for environmental protection will be another problem. What do you see this problem? How do you want to address this problem?
Well, the lower price, how we actually create the lower price, because we actually demanding the lower price, and this is how we create this crisis in the fashion industry, because fashion industry have to produce more cheaper, pay for the raw materials lower prices, and this is kind of like a degradation of the fashion industry. And if we are putting a little bit more efforts in choosing better materials, placing orders in the better factories, then we, of course, logically have to increase the price to the actually normal price for the product and price for the product. So when we are talking about sustainable product and we say, oh, it's a little bit, it's too expensive. No, it's actually the real price for the product. And this is what we have to put in the minds through our communication with our customers.
So let them know that you're doing something for Mother Nature. So maybe the price may be a little bit higher than normal, but it's good to, the world. All right, now let's go to Bensu. We had Jiacheng talk about, people's everyday usage of fossil fuels. They can change fossil fuels to natural gas. And then we have Xenia talking about the fashion industry, how people can, wear with more recyclable materials, clothes. And what are your tips for, everyday, for people, ordinary people to do in their everyday life?
Well, kind of jumping off what she was just talking about, I think choosing where you're spending your money or where you're putting your dollar is actually more impactful than people know. So putting your money towards a sustainable brand or something local rather than, going and, no shade to Zara, but like going to Zara and buying there, I think that where you put your dollar, you're almost like putting a vote in. You're saying, I support this company, I support your actions. Whereas if you spend your money somewhere else, sure, it might be a little bit more expensive, but think about the bigger cause that you're contributing to. And as well, I find that when things are cheaper, it's almost like this weird like fallacy. You'll end up buying more stuff that you don't need because, oh, it's cheap or, oh, it's on sale. Whereas I feel like intentional with your purchases when you're like, okay, this pair of jeans is $100. It's a little pricey for me, but I really like it. I'm willing to invest in it. And now I'm not going to buy with, the remaining money. I'm not going to try to, push the utility of my money somewhere that actually won't bring me the utility I think it will. I really need this pair of jeans. I love it. And that's what I'm going to buy rather than, I have $100. I'm just going to buy like 5 shirts I don't really need because they're $10. So I think being more conscious with your money and realizing that you can get actually more utility by spending it and investing it in quality pieces rather than just buying things because they're cheap. And yeah, put your money towards certain like corporations or companies that are smaller and, helping a smaller company out and helping show them like, hey, I support you. And just like actions like that, putting your money somewhere good, essentially, I think is more important and more impactful than people know.
And we talk about this. You said you're a vegan and right now you cook your own food. Is it more expensive to cook for yourself or to eat outside?
Right. So I think that a big misconception about veganism or being plant-based is that it's inherently more expensive. I think that if you're buying things like, like the Dai products or, of course, certain things like that, they're like specialty items. They're usually vegan and gluten-free things are also typically more expensive. Those things obviously are going to be more expensive. But when I first started being vegan, I've lived on university campus before. I definitely, didn't have all the funds in the world to buy vegan specialty items. So tofu is cheap, beans are cheap, lentils are cheap, bananas, rice, things like that. I think you just need to stick with the staples and just focus on not buying, expensive specialty items and just get, like vegan ice cream or something for a treat every once in a while. But no, it hasn't been inherently more expensive for me, only if I buy like specialty like foods.
Cool. What about you, Andrea? Any tips?
Yes, so I have 2 points that I would like to share. First of all, jumping off what Xenia and Bensu just mentioned, I think that there is a lot of sustainable products that are more on the expensive side, but also I've had the experience of if I go to H&M or if I go to Zara, for example, I will end up buying a lot of clothes and spend the same amount of money that I would actually spend in a product that will last me longer, that is more good quality. So I think it's important for everyone to understand the balance. Of course, it's very, we shouldn't demand for everyone to spend a lot of money on their clothing, but I think it's good to ask everyone to understand and to find a balance and why is it important and what's the difference between sustainable products and fast fashion and how are we actually using fast fashion in our daily life. And then also I would like to make a point that sustainable products right now are very pricey, not only food, not only clothing, but other options as well. For example, if you think about alternative meat, alternative proteins, they are very pricey because they are a new product and they are not being produced a lot because there is not that much demand around it. But with time, this will, it's the experience curve, right? The more the demand, the more the increase the efficiency is, the more the economy scales and the more technological innovation we have in producing these sustainable products, the less it will cost. So I think it's really important for us to also understand this aspect and to know where we are putting our money. And then I would like also to talk about waste. I know I've talked about it so many times already, but it's something that comes from my personal experience and what I see in my daily life. I think that both in Romania and in China, there is a lot of food waste. And at the same time, there are also many people that cannot afford food or have to cut on some of the nutrients that they put in. And on the other side, there is if you have a family gathering, if you are meeting friends, you're going to buy so much food that you're going to throw away some of it. So I think it's very important to be conscious about our food waste as well, because I see a lot of that also from food caterers and also just your personal use. It's important to find the right balance and know when to stop ordering or ask to take away your remaining. So it's really important. And also I would like to reinstate the topic of reduce, reuse, and recycle. So do as much as possible to make a difference in how you recycle your items, how much you are consuming, how are you reusing, how many times. I'm trying to really push also some initiatives to put organic compost on campus, for example, on some campuses, so that maybe students can bring their own food waste there, and then this food will not go fully will be fully wasted and be reused. So I think that we need to try to make the most out of what we have. Of course, companies and, it's like big corporations and big celebrities, they produce a lot of carbon emissions, they produce a lot of waste, but at the same time, we should also be aware of our input in this field.
Mm-hmm. I like how you said we need to raise awareness for everybody, not just those big corporations or celebrities, but also people, just ordinary people. So we actually had this comment from one of our viewers, and he said, why is climate change important to me? It doesn't matter as long as the billionaires are flying around in private jets with carbon footprints the size of Angola. So I think a lot of people are saying that those billionaires or celebrities and big corporations, they should take the lead and make moves first and really raise awareness for the general public to have everybody know that this is an issue that we need to really care about right now.
I wanted to say that we've seen really recently in the media as well that people are calling out big celebrities on their private jet usage. And this is one of the examples how we can also bring awareness to these people. They will, if they understand that normal people like us, we want to take care of the environment, we care about these things, they will understand the feedback. It will take some time, but I think there could be some change there as well.
Mm-hmm. Xenia, you're working with the fashion industry, and a lot of times people want to follow what those celebrities are wearing. So if those celebrities are taking the lead and wear, let's say, your product or clothes that coming from recyclable materials, do you think that more people would want to try out those clothes?
For sure. Seriously, I would love to see more celebrities who will be involved in the sustainable development and not just wearing the sustainable products and brand. Of course, I would be happy if some celebrity wearing my backpack, but also what is important, what is important for sure is to open up the topic. Let's start from the very simple steps, like conversation. Yeah, because only the knowledge can bring us to the more sustainable life. And I would like to change word sustainable, which is actually not very clear, probably. Let's change it to the more respectful life. And then it's more understandable. So I would be calling the style more respectful for yourself, to yourself, and towards to everything what is surrounding.
Sorry, is that a backpack behind you?
Yes, this backpack is from one pair of jeans. I'm open.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm open.
Closer.
Sure. So there was a kind of like a core idea of my brand that everyone in this world has one pair of jeans, and if you are not anymore enjoying to wear it, or maybe it's too small or too big for you, or not trendy anymore, you can send it to our brand and we can transform it into a useful and trendy backpack. And I know this is very actually interesting trend right now. I think it's like it's a Gen Z, like they don't want to be anymore in the crowd and look the same. So they want unique. And I think this kind of like a product like UseDem, like we are creating.
Do you do that by hand?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's also what is interesting about our project. We are cooperating with a company called Home Sweet Home. This company is employing disabled people, homeless, and those who are in needs. We're supporting that society, which is the most vulnerable here in China, and providing jobs as well as training and bring people to the life where they accepted by society.
Speaking of job, Bensu, I know you're a recent graduate from college. Are you planning to pursue a career in maybe environmental protection related field?
So I know when I first graduated, I definitely wanted to be either working with like a sustainable brand, like a sustainable fashion brand or something like that. It didn't quite end up working out, like life takes you in weird places. And as of right now, I'm not necessarily in a role where I'm using, my like environmental knowledge, but definitely in the future, it's something that I'd like to do or even implement in the current company that I'm working with somehow.
Now let's go to our next question that most of our viewers want to know more about. I know this question, we already sort of talked about it already. People want to know, are sustainable products a hoax? Does go green necessarily mean that it's more expensive? Let's go to Bensu first, because you talk a lot about food, obviously. Do you have anything else to share? Are sustainable products a hoax?
Right. So I think that when brands try to kind of push sustainable products, sometimes it actually can be redundant because it's actually making you consume things that you might not need because you think, oh, this is sustainable, so I should get it. But in reality, you actually might have the solution already in your home. So for example, you're going shopping, you're like, oh, this reusable coffee cup, like this will be so environmentally friendly. And you have no idea, like you have a thermos sitting at home or so in that sense, I think the best thing you can do is to just not consume at all. Like I think the best thing is just to use what you have and try not to consume. So in that way, sustainable products can be a little bit, I guess, gimmicky because obviously it's a little bit trendy to be sustainable now. So I think that sometimes these products are pushed on you that are, marketed as sustainable, but it's actually just pushing you to consume more. But I think there's a way to replace something that you're using, like for example, like a plastic shaver, and then there's one that's like fully metal that it'll last you a whole lifetime, and then you can recycle at the end. Something like that I think is actually real and could actually be helpful in helping you reduce your plastic. But there are definitely some things that you don't need, and if you have it already, or if you have something else you can make work, just try to use what you have instead of buying more things that seem sustainable, if that makes sense.
Sure. Let's go to Jiacheng. You're a petroleum engineering major. Are you seeing more and more students or young kids interested in the field, or other environmental protection related field?
Yeah, there are still a lot of students who are interested in petroleum engineering, but first they didn't realize the problem that petroleum might cause to the environment. They are very similar to me. First, I think they think the industry earn a lot of money and they want to find a good job. But after they come into this industry, the teacher, the professor will tell them about, now we are truly making some changes. We should learn some other skills to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions. Now the biggest barriers to deploy CCUS technology is their cost. It will inevitably make the oil and gas become a little bit expensive. But I think that is the price we have to pay for a better future. So the students in the oil and the gas industry, they not only need to learn the old school knowledge about how to extract more oil and gas on the ground, they also need to learn how to control the carbon dioxide they produce and how to inject carbon dioxide underground. And at this point is extracting more and more students to learn petroleum engineering, because they find this is not a skill that might to get global warming even worse. Actually, to learn petroleum engineering, especially CCUS, to inject carbon dioxide underground, can help us a lot. I think this is a new point to attract others to join us.
Andrea, do you see there is a trend, whether it's in China or other countries that you've been to, of young kids more involved into environmental protection?
Yes, so I would have to say that during the Climate X program initiated by GAOC, I not only had the chance to learn from experts in the field, but I also had the chance to be really, really inspired by my peers. And so I was very pleasantly surprised to see that there are so many of my classmates or other peers from all over the world that are more and more interested in sustainability and that are doing a lot in the field. And at the same time, I also see that it's starting to be more and more discussed topic, both in Europe and in China. And there's even more celebrities that are involved in climate action and promoting sustainability. So that is a really great sign. And I think that one of the biggest changes is also the language around it. People are starting to understand that climate change is real and that there are some things that we can do, that how we can work with governments, for example, how we can enable youth in studying these topics and learn about SDGs, learn about climate change. So it's definitely more and more present in student life. So yes, and you also asked me does finance intersect with climate change? And the thing is, it's not only finance that is a more different topic that has a lot of impact in climate change, but there are so many different things that we can study, we can learn about that will have an impact in it. For example, if you think about it, how does marketing and communication affect climate change? It does, because there is a whole language around it, specific language around it, how we market things. There are a lot of different industries that play a role in this, and there's definitely more and more interest in doing So, and a sign of this is also that many companies are hiring sustainability chiefs of sustainability, for example, to overview the strategy for the company in long term that aligns with the net zero future. So it's definitely a great sign for that.
I like how you said a lot of the industries are intertwined with environmental protection. If we don't have Xenia here, how do we know that fashion industry has something to do with the environment as well? So Xenia, can you offer some, I guess, suggestions for those, because you're an entrepreneur. We are seeing more young entrepreneurs want to step into the sustainable business. Do you have some suggestions for them?
First of all, I think the most important, you need to focus that how much you really enjoy the process. If you will not find what you want and you still want to be in fashion or want to learn about upcycling, we actually started the pilot project in China. So basically, we're offering our brand as a kind of like a tool to learn about upcycling and do upcycling in your city. With all our knowledge and experience, we can share with everyone who wants to start upcycling.
And finally, let's get to our last question. And the question is this, looking into the future, how should we raise awareness on climate change and have everyone make a move? Let's start from Jiacheng.
How to raise people's awareness? Well, we have talked a lot about energy, right? So I think people should build an idea about how we use energy. The first thing is now the majority of world energy consumption is the burning of fossil fuels like coal, like oil and the gas. They contribute about more than 81% of total energy consumption. And I think people should understand that in a short term, we cannot just eliminate the production of carbon dioxide. But we can build another idea that we can bury them. We can bury the carbon dioxide we produce. That requires some transformation of our lifestyles. That, just as I said before, we can choose not to separately produce carbon dioxide. We can choose a lifestyle that carbon dioxide can produce together, such as the power plants, and inject them from the underground. And another thing is we can support the policy that supports a more green lifeway. Some oil fields are abandoned because there are no oil and gas can be produced. But actually, we find if we inject cold water through the abandoned well, because the formation is hot, right? So we can produce some hot water from underground. That is actually geothermal energy. So in the abandoned oil field, we can actually build a new city. This city do not have to consume any coal. They just consume the underground heat.
I think then we need more scientists or engineers tell people that. All right, let's go to Bensu. How can we raise awareness?
I think actually something very simple is utilizing social media platforms and just sharing simple, shareable, usable content for people that they can actually implement in their ordinary lives. It would be my answer.
Perfect. Andrea?
Yes, for me, I believe that we are all influencing our local communities. So for me, I think it's very important to share what I know, what I've learned with my local communities in Italy or around campus here in Beijing. And at the same time, I think that one other way is to educate people. Education is a key word. So to try to fill in the gap between scientists and normal people like us. So we need more discussions about it and more understanding of really big words that are actually simple concepts that we can share with everyone.
Xenia?
I would like to speak for fashion industry. I know for sure, I know that so many companies in China doing the great job on sustainable development, but they keep silent about it. So my call for action is to actually share this information with the Chinese customer. Let's stop holding back this information. If we are doing something great, let's talk about it. Let's create the awareness of produce better product. Yeah. And
All right. I think that's a very solid conversation. We talked about why does environmental protection matter. We talked about all those devastating effects that coming from human activities. We also everybody gave out some tips for ordinary people from in their everyday life, what they can do to help with environmental protection. And also we saying that all those sustainable products, although they may cost a little bit more than normal products, but the thing is they help with the mother nature. And in the end, we talked about how to raise awareness and get everybody realize that this is a problem that is super urgent and everybody needs to make a move. I like how you guys really give out a lot of personal experiences and just help to raise awareness for the environmental protection problems. All right, thank you so much and bye.